Lane Kiffin channeled his inner Nick Saban after the Washington State game, and that is a good sign for what goes on tomorrow against the Georgia Bulldogs. I will explain.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Ole Miss podcast, the most watched Ole Miss podcast out there. I'm your host, Steven Willis, a 10-year veteran member of the national media with Yahoo Sports and a former Ole Miss staff member. On today's show, we're going to bring in Michael Katz from the Northeast Mississippi Tupelo Daily Journal to talk about Ole Miss heading to Georgia this weekend and all of the stuff last minute that you need to know. We'll ask Michael about all of that stuff and more on today's Locked On Ole Miss podcast. Remember, we're free and available on all the podcast apps and on YouTube. Thank you for making Locked On Ole Miss your first listen every day, and a special hello to the insiders and everydayers who make the show what it is. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. So, really interesting stuff. One thing that's, Michael, that I'm thinking about is Lane Kiffin completely laying into that football team after the Washington State game. It was very reminiscent of Nick Saban. And honestly, just looking at it, I feel better about Saturday after seeing that, because if they did that after a win, imagine what practice was like Tuesday and Wednesday.
Yeah, no, that is not a side of Lane Kiffin that we often see. And it was very Saban-esque. I really do believe, though, that I think the time when you can probably get through to your team the most is when they just barely hang on against the team that shouldn't have been in that situation. I think there are a lot of people that were angry about that. I mean, again, I've been telling everybody, in the post-game press conference, you would have thought they lost. I mean, there were no smiles. I mean, this was it was like a funeral listening to everybody. Yeah, I mean, I imagine this week, if they couldn't have their best week of practice after that, I don't know what else would do it, because I think there are a lot of people really upset with that, and I think that I mean, that shows a lot of growth with where this program is, when just getting wins, getting bowl eligible, that stuff isn't. No, that's not it anymore, man. It's not good enough to just win. You got to win the right way, and I think he used the term "the standard," and I think that says a lot about where this program's at. It's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, and you juxtapose that with Kirby Smart basically dominating the first half and then figuring out how to struggle win, and ended up dancing on a medical table after that game. The juxtaposition, it was almost reversed. You expect what happened after the Washington State game to be a Kirby Smart thing, and then you expect the Ole Miss situation after winning on the Plains in Auburn, the coach dancing on a medical table.
Well, as Lane alluded to, maybe that was him trying to get some of his steps in. As he said Monday, that was quite the moment between those two friends. But yeah, no, I mean, you don't usually see Kirby in those sorts of, or you don't think of him that way. At least you think of him as being very stoic and usually angry. I mean, I'm trying to imagine Nick Saban dancing on a table, and I legitimately can't do it. The closest I can get is him eating food with Pat McAfee on game day. That's the happiest I can envision him. Yeah, no, it is a crazy juxtaposition. That was a weird game. There was a lot behind that game. A lot of
I'm clapping.
Yeah, a lot of clapping. Well, I've never seen people clap that way before, but
never.
Apparently that's how they do it. Yeah, no, there's a lot of emotion behind that game. Obviously, it's a big rivalry, so I understand where Kirby's coming from to an extent. But we just don't see that. And then you look at Lane, and it was doom and gloom.
Yeah. But Kirby's thing is like the Nick Saban thing, to where everything's even killed and there's not highs and lows. And when you have a release like that at the end of the ball game, you're creating highs and lows at that point. And that's the weird point to me. That was not the behavior of a team and a coach that looks at himself as a juggernaut. That is a coach that thought he was going to lose, and he didn't. That's exactly what that was.
This is a different sort of Georgia team, though.
Mm-hmm.
The more I look at them, and don't get me wrong, like they're really good. There's no question about that. They are very, very good. But when you compare it to the Georgia teams we've seen in the last few years, maybe this probably isn't one of the best. And that's, of course, they've had 2 national championships and a 13-1 team, and all these other things. It's not the traditional Georgia team, and they don't get after the quarterback. Their defensive line is not what it usually is. The receivers haven't been explosive. It's a different looking Georgia team. So it's hard for me to imagine. What was it, the 2022 team that went undefeated and beat Michigan in the national title game? No,
TCU.
Yeah, TCU. Yes, TCU. Yeah, that was. I don't think that version of Kirby Smart is jumping on the table after a close win, right?
Right.
It is a little bit of a different team. Not saying that they're not good. They are very, very good. They are always good. They're well coached. They're talented. It does seem like a different type of team, though.
Yeah, and it will be interesting to see, because when you look at the advanced stats side by side, if you go to I think it's gamesonpaper.com and look at that, you can get a side by side of the Ole Miss offense versus the Georgia defense and where the positions and the stats. Ole Miss is leading on like 85% of those stats this season. It's a game when you look at the numbers, Ole Miss is pretty good. Now, but if you look at FanDuel, Georgia's a 7.5-point favorite, and they're not moving that line, even though 80% of the bets are on Ole Miss and like 70% of the money, which that's normally a red flag too. I don't think anybody knows what to make of this ball game, if we're going to be honest.
I have gone really back and forth, and like there's a lot of reasons that like historically Georgia's going to win this game, right? Ole Miss has not won there since 1996, whatever the stat is. We know what happened the last time.
That's the Walker Jones Hines Ward game, by the way.
Yes. They 52-17 the last time they were in Athens. But again, that was a different Georgia team. That team had Brock Bowers and Ladd McConkey and a bunch of first round talented guys on the front, and Carson Beck, who was playing really, really good ball that year. But then you also look at, and I think part of why this is such a big game for Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin is like to take that next step as a program. You got to win one of these on the road at some point, right? Like you win the road, you win the home games against the top 5 teams. That's great. Like that's step one. That's important. But if you're going to become a perennial contender, man, you got to take one of these on the road at some point. So it feels like it could be, but we've had those situations before where it hasn't quite come to fruition. That being said, this Georgia team, I don't like to use the term gettable because that makes it not sound like they're not good. They are very good, but this is not a perfect Georgia team by any stretch. It's not a perfect Ole Miss team either, but Ole Miss has made it work this year. So I'm at like a field goal either way right now, and depending on when you ask me, I don't know which way.
Yeah, I think I went with 21-20 Ole Miss winning the game. That's like it's a coin flip one way or another. And I think most everybody, I don't expect this to be a blowout in either direction. But there is the chance that I talked about on my podcast that Trinidad Chambliss freaks out in this game. This is the first time that he's played in an environment like this. And until you see it happen, you don't think he's going to freak out, but you have to acknowledge it as a possibility.
Oh, 100%. I mean, listen, he had his quote unquote worst game last week, and it's not like it was awful. He was 20-29 for 250 yards and he had 3 touchdowns. But he's never started a game on the road, and not just on the road. This is a 95,000 people legitimately barking at you. I mean, this is going to be a little different than the friendly confines that he's had in his starts. And I know he won a national championship at Ferris State, and he's a kid that's not going to get rattled, at least from what we know about him. But yeah, like you said, like you don't, until the bullets start flying in that stadium, you really don't know what it's going to look like. I think the best thing they can do for him is run the ball and take some pressure off him. Maybe give him some easy throws early. Honestly, maybe let him get hit early with some runs just to kind of take the edge off a little bit. I know that's something that some quarterbacks like. It sounds like a Jackson Dart type thing. Get knocked around a little bit, and then you're fine.
First two plays of the game, I'd run quarterback power to get him hit, and then I'd throw a screen pass.
Yeah, get him in rhythm. Like just get it out of the way, and then let's get to work. I don't imagine that this is going to. If he plays poorly, I don't think it's going to be because of the moment, right? I think if he does, it'll be because they just got beat for whatever reason, whatever ends up happening. But I don't. It's hard for me to see him getting stars or struck or lights too bright. But it'll be interesting to see. We have legitimately never seen him in this sort of situation.
Yeah, it should be pretty interesting. When we come back, we'll talk to Michael more about this game and what's going on in Athens, Georgia. He's heading that direction very shortly, so stick around for that. It's almost the weekend. It's time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order. These players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it down. For the Ole Miss Rebels, Cam Franklin delivered in a big way. He was a menace behind the line, registering his first career sack. And if you've been watching week after week, this isn't a fluke. Cam Franklin is starting a streak. And just like Cam Franklin delivered for the Rebels, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays. With DoorDash Streaks, you save every Saturday you order, stack it all up, and you can save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive and fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period runs through November 18th. Also, when the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get the crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep by tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service has always had your blind side covered. That's Football Reference. Need parts fast for a project? Supply House has next day delivery. Talk about a game changer. The part finder, tools, and 3D schematics can save you hours on jobs where every detail matters. Their Trademaster perks like priority shipping and a dedicated support line make the whole process smoother. So join the free Trademaster program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHCollege5. That's all one word, SHCollege5, for 5% off your first order. That's Supply House, real people, real service. Also, do us a favor, like, subscribe, and comment on the video. Subscribe to the podcast on whichever audio podcast you're listening to, and give a 5-star review. It costs absolutely nothing, but keeps all of this free. Locked On is getting ready to change the game yet again, all in the name of having fun following your team. It's all coming in December. Stay tuned for that. And don't forget to check out a second listen on the network. Nearly every team, college and pro, is ready for you on the Locked On network. So, Michael, one thing that's interesting about this game, I mentioned the betting line a little bit earlier, that Georgia is a 7.5-point favorite. The over-under is only at about 53 points. Lane Kiffin has been really good in not doing the go-for-it thing this season until Washington State. The first drive against Washington State, he got greedy. It was a 4th and 3 from the 4-yard line, and he went for it, and he didn't get it. And he wouldn't have got it because the guy that was thrown to over his head, there was a linebacker right in front. That ball wasn't getting through. So I think, in my opinion, he got all sorts of adulation basically after he went for it against LSU, kind of got it in the blood a little bit and wanted to do it again. I think, just remember, this is against Georgia. Take the points just like you did last season, and you will be fine.
Yeah, he was really good about that last year against Georgia in taking the points and sort of understanding the situation. And I think before LSU, they had only attempted like 4 fourth downs the entire year. And obviously They got a couple of really big ones against LSU, and then I think you're on a heater, so you keep going in a game that you figure probably isn't going to come down to a couple of fourth downs, but honestly, it almost did. So I think it's probably you sometimes fly a little bit close to the sun, and then you kind of realize, no, this isn't probably what's going to work for us. But I will be really curious though if it's a 4th and 1 at the Georgia 40. What's he doing? Does he trust Carnero, or at the 35? Is he trusting Carnero? Because Carnero's missed a couple of kicks, and he has looked really good for the most part. But he missed one last week, I believe, and then he missed one in the opener. We know he's got the leg. I think there's a part of me that I feel like 4th down sort of look at Lane like the Green Goblin mask, and it sort of talks to him, right? And it's just always like, come on, man, I know you want to do it. This is the time. Screw the book. This is the moment. Yeah. And he's gotten a lot better about that. But you do think, like, maybe in a game like this, does it get the better of him? We know it didn't last year, and that's what I think was so big for them. And maybe he got it all out of his system against Washington State. I think he picked the spots correctly against LSU. It's hard to argue with the way that one went.
And he had a play that he knew was going to work. Correct. He called the same play 3 times in a row, and there was no stopping it.
Correct.
Yeah.
On the road, are you willing to gamble those sorts of situations? I don't know. I mean, remember against Alabama in 2021 where they went for it on 4th, and all of a sudden they were down like 28-0 at half before you knew it.
Yeah. Get your popcorn ready game.
Yep. And then we got the famous when Jeff Levy was still there, and he said, "I think we forgot to plug the microwave in, buddy." An all-time that was an all-time quote I remember about the popcorn. But yeah, you can't put yourself in those sorts of situations. And Lane's obviously grown a lot since then. I'm curious to see how he handles it.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see, because my whole thing that I've been talking about for months is playing like a favorite. Play like a favorite. Well, this game, you're not a favorite. This is the one game on your schedule to where you can legitimately play Ole Miss versus the world and all of that stuff. You have the Washington State. Every intangible is in Lane Kiffin's favor. It's going to be on him to, magnify that momentum that's being built as opposed to stunting it, if that's possible.
Yeah, isn't it crazy that in a game where Ole Miss is the higher ranked team, it does feel still like they're. I know that the lines have changed a little bit, and some people are starting to take Ole Miss, but if we're looking at the rest of the schedule, this is probably the one where people are like, oh, well, there's no way Ole Miss is winning that one, just because of the situation and the context. Listen, Lane has gotten the most out of this team so far. It's hard for me to not see it happening again. I don't know if that results in a win, because again, Georgia is supremely talented and really the gold standard of college football these days. But I'm not going to count him out in terms of getting the team up and ready. And again, going back to that clip we saw of him really laying into them leads me to believe that he's going to have them ready.
Yeah, this is a game he wants, because him and Kirby genuinely are friends. It isn't like Hugh Freeze and Gus Malzahn from back in the day that just said they were friends. This is a real friendship. And also, this is one thing that's interesting to me. Earlier, Lane Kiffin, they were doing the different uniform combinations every single game. But ever since the white jerseys with the powder blue numbers got released, more times than not, it's been the powder blue helmets, the white jerseys with the powder blue numbers, and the white pants. It's going to be that way again at Georgia. What happened to the red number jerseys?
They're vintage now, I guess.
Yeah, I'm serious. One of the best looking uniforms that Ole Miss had, period, was that red away number jersey with the navy blue helmet and the white pants, like they wore against Auburn a couple of years ago. That is their one of their best looks, and it's just gone. Is like, yeah, I mean, come on.
See, as a guy who grew up in USC lore, we never have this problem because we only have 2 jerseys.
Yeah. See,
it's either do you want the red one or the white one?
Hey, and this isn't a new thing with Lane Kiffin because Ole Miss was Oregon before Oregon because they had 4 jerseys that they could choose from back in 1979. So I just wish the old schools would come back. Maybe they can bring it back from Mississippi State because that seems to be a Navy helmet, red number jerseys, and the gray pants. They wear it there. But man, it's starting to make me wonder because last year somebody's like, yeah, they got rid of those. They don't have those anymore. And now you're just like wondering, wait, they don't?
They got to be somewhere, right?
Right. It seems like it'd be a phone call to Uncle Phil to get some more of those if necessary too.
Yes. And Lord knows Uncle Phil has the means as well.
Yes. All right. When we come back, we will figure out how this game's going to go, talk to Michael Katz about some predictions, and wrap this up before the game tomorrow. So stick around for that. But first, I do want to let you know, guys, you've probably heard about Viagra or Cialis. Heck, maybe you've even tried them. But if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rougiette Go Long. That's exactly where Rougiette's Go Long comes in. This isn't just another ED pill. It's a total game changer for confidence. Go Long combines 2 doctor-trusted medication and 1 dual-action formula, so you can, I guess, handle business. The effects can last up to 36 hours. That's confidence all day, all night, and even into the next day. The process is simple. Connect with a board-certified doctor. It's 100% online, and if prescribed, your treatment ships discreetly right to your door. If prescribed, head to rougiette.com. That's RUGIET.com and use promo code LockedOnCollege for 15% off your first order. That's RUGIET.com, promo code LockedOnCollege, to make sure you use that code, by the way, so that they know we sent you and, I guess, get your Rougiette. Also, the NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you do not want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, pull down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love how FanDuel gives you so many different ways to play. I've built parlays, tried player props. I've even followed live lines during the games. It makes watching football even a little bit more exciting when you have a little something riding on the action. Whether you're a casual fan or love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. All right, Michael, real quick, you're driving over to Athens, Georgia. You're going to head over there. It's a nice stadium, by the way. I enjoy every time I've gone to Sanford. How do you think this game is going to go? Because Georgia has started slow in every game this season for whatever reason, but in the second half, they've just been a brick wall. My joking comment, and it's kind of a real comment, and Ole Miss can do this if they did this against Arkansas because they said they created 2 separate game plans in that game. Why not create a game plan for the first half, and then after they adjust to that, you have another game plan that's going a little bit different?
I know it's dangerous to look at previous games with the way team composition is now. The year to year is obviously so different. But I went back to the 2023 game, the 52-17 nightmare, and I remembered that Georgia had run for 300 yards in that game. And when I looked at the in detail stats, I was actually really surprised that I think 150 of those yards were just right up the middle. They just beat them up the middle. This year, Georgia doesn't run up the middle that well, statistically speaking. They have kind of lived outside the tight ends on either side in terms of where their best yardage has come from. So if Ole Miss can string things out and make it go on the perimeter, I think they're in a good spot. But if they get gashed up the middle, I think it's going to be a really, really, really long day again.
I think I said on my show, the number one key, this is the simplest game for Ole Miss all season. If you stop the run, you win the game. It's as simple as that in this game to me.
Yeah, and last year, what they held Georgia to 250 yards, whatever it was. But it was the turnovers that defined that game, the timely turnovers and the sacks. Are you going to get those again? It's hard to know. Those are so sporadic sometimes. But I think the biggest thing Ole Miss can't do is turn the ball over themselves. I mean, that's how you throw a game away. That's how it goes from a 10-point halftime game to a 28-point halftime game or whatever it is. That's when games spiral out of control. And, Trinidad has, I think he had the fumble last week. He had the interception the week before. He had been so good at taking care of the ball before that. They can't have those sorts of moments. I think if they play clean and they stop the run, I think Georgia runs for about 185 a game. If you hold them under that, I think you're probably feeling pretty good.
Yeah. And Georgia's secondary, Georgia this year has had a trouble getting off the field on third down. Mm-hmm. That's the weird thing with the Kirby Smart defense. And that's one of the most striking statistics that you can see. Even Auburn in the first half, who couldn't get first downs on third down against Texas A&M and Oklahoma, they were like 5 of 7 in that first half, some insane number. So you can scheme up some first downs. You just don't want to give up the explosive plays to the defense, whether sacks, interceptions, fumbles, things like that. And you're going to be able to score. And I think you need to make Georgia work for every touchdown. It needs to be 75 plus yards every time they touch the ball. Make them have to spend 10 minutes driving the football. Trust that they just can't do it over and over and over again. And I think by the end, talent will win out because Auburn has a really good defense. Georgia had the ball before that fumble for 12 plays in the first half. That was like 28 minutes, 12 plays. I mean, it was a beatdown. Now, Auburn could not recover over the fact that they fumbled that or didn't fumble, but the fact that they called it that, they couldn't ever get past that. And Georgia was able to cut it to 10-3, and then it was 10-10. And once they were even, they were leaving. But I do agree with what you said earlier. This isn't the Georgia team that you think of when you think of Georgia. And I think that if you can control the run game, don't stop the run game. You're not going to hold them to 50 yards rushing because they run the ball too well. But put the game in Gunnar Stockton's hand to win, and if they beat you, they beat you.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's got one game this year where he's thrown for more than 250. It was that Tennessee game that was pretty insane. Listen, they've obviously got talent out at the skill positions. It's Georgia. They're always going to have talented guys, but the thing that they can't have happen is that long touchdown to Zachariah Branch or something like that. That explosive. Zachariah Branch is averaging about 10 yards a catch this year. He has not really broken out, but listen, I'm a USC guy. I know what he's capable of. He is lightning in a bottle. He gets one guy out of position and it's 75 yards. They can't have those sorts of things. Like you said, they got to work for it. And again, if that's the way you lose, then so be it. But you can't have Georgia beat you with explosive plays.
All right, what do you got going on in the Daily Journal this weekend, buddy?
Well, I wrote a big story on Trinidad Chambliss, the most interesting man in the world, maybe the most interesting man in Oxford at the moment. I saw another Trinidad Tobago flag near Starbucks today at a random house. So it's, again, he's just such a cool story. And I really think one of the, I think we get so caught up in college football right now in the business side of things and the negatives. He's just a good story. I mean, that's what we live for as reporters. So that one's up. You're going to need some time to read it. It's lengthy, but I assure you, I promise it's worth your time. Also got our preview stuff. Did a Q&A with a Georgia beat reporter looking a little bit more in depth on what this Georgia team sort of looks like compared to the ones we've seen the last 5 years, its strengths, its weaknesses, all those sorts of things. So plenty of stuff to get you primed and ready for this one. I'm just grateful that the 2:30, I guess it's a 3:30 start for me, since it'll be on the East Coast time. But man, I'm always grateful for the afternoon starts. I know fans don't like it, but there's nothing better than getting home before midnight.
Absolutely. And everybody needs to get prepared because if Ole Miss somehow wins the game against Georgia, Trinidad Chambliss is going to vault up to number one on the Heisman boards, and it's going to get weird really, really quickly. So everybody needs to be prepared for that. Anyway, thank you, Michael, and we'll talk to you next week, bud.
Appreciate you, buddy.
All right. Thanks again for making Locked On Ole Miss your go-to source for Ole Miss sports. We pride ourselves in offering the most comprehensive perspectives, which is why we are the front door of Ole Miss. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. Helps the show, and it's absolutely free. Your support means the world to us. And another big moment for Locked On, college football fans. Locked On and Fire TV are presenting College Football Kickoff, your ultimate college football weekly preview. Drake Toll of Locked On Big 12 leads the conversation, along two-time AP Coach of the Year, Gary Patterson, and former college star Jesse Ollie, and Locked On's local experts. A college football preview only Locked On can do. Catch College Football Kickoff every Thursday throughout the season, only on Fire TV. Hotty toddy, everybody. Remember, analytics is just the old English word that means bad football. We'll see you tomorrow.